They just shrink back down when you start cutting. When you go much more than that, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds of fat, the cells get so big they can't control their own interiors anymore. They divide, they grow again, they divide, they grow again, so they're multiplying. When you cut back down, you have 3 or 4 times the number of fat cells that you had before, which means you have 3 or 4 times the amount of diet fatigue at the end of diets than you've had before. The opposite side of this, sort of, is saying, okay, got a bulk. Time to do the crazy thing. And now you end up gaining weight way too fast. I'm not saying you're dreamer bulking. That's a different problem we'll run into later. I'm saying you're even gaining a totally normal amount of weight. You start at 180 pounds, you end at 190. Nothing wrong with that. But what you end up doing is you gain like 1 to 2 pounds per week, which I used to say was a good idea, and that was wrong. And you end up getting to 190 pounds after 7 weeks of bulking. What's wrong with that? Well, it turns out there are a few things wrong with that. Probably the major one is muscle gain accretes. Muscle gain accretes very slowly. Fractions and fractions of a pound per week. If you're lucky, you gain half a pound of weight, you gain quarter pound of muscle, quarter pound of fat. If you gain a pound per week, you gain quarter pound of muscle, maybe a little bit more, and then just a little bit under 3/4 of a pound of fat. If you gain 2 pounds of weight per week, that's like 1.65 pounds of fat you're gaining per week, but only like 0.35 pounds of muscle per week. It just doesn't make any sense. Very, very often is the actually exact opposite of number 2. They go, okay, I don't want to gain weight too fast. I'm going to gain weight really slow. Except they gain weight so slowly that they lose track of how much actual tissue they could be gaining, or even worse, are they even gaining? The fluctuations in daily body water are so high, the signal, which is how much weight you've actually gained, to the noise, which is how big the fluctuations are, that ratio turns completely insane to where you cannot detect what's actually going on. So a graph of someone who's actually gained an 1/8 of a pound per week for 4 weeks straight looks like this. Up and down, up and down, up and down. A graph of someone who has maintained the entire time, who actually didn't gain anything, looks like this. Exactly the same to the human eye and even to the machine eye with that few number of weeks. And if you've even lost weight by accident, you were running a deficit the whole time. You don't know. If you're 1/2 a pound per week is damn near the ideal weight gain goal for almost everyone. Just enough to see which way the directionality goes. Because after 4 weeks, that's 2 pounds. You'll see that for sure. But it's not so much that you're going to get super, super fat, super quick, and then shorten up. And that's basically problem number 2 that we just talked about.